It can be traced back to 1839 when it was first invented by a Welsh scientist, and in 1966 the world's first fuel cell vehicle was developed by General Motors. But it wasn't until 2014 that Toyota unveiled the world's first commercial fuel cell car. Fuel cell vehicles have so far struggled to break into the mainstream.
Electric vehicle right now have some very big problems. So the main differences between a combustion engine car and an electric vehicle is energy densities. So for example, if you have a gallon of gasoline, it can host 33 kilowatts per hours of energy, but that equals to it's equals to 139 cans of batteries, which is gigantic in size compared to just gallon of gasoline. And in addition, there are also structural supports and cooling system that's making the battery itself even more heavier and hard to produce. A battery causes much more of CO2 productions. But throughout the years, the driving emission itself will offset the disadvantage. Mostly, it will take 3.5 years to break even.
One problem is we don't really know what's the equivalent to the fuel cell. That's exactly right now the problem. Yeah, when it's difficult to compare these things, and especially also the other impact, which is the mining, which is one of the biggest impacts, maybe that will influence this. Plus, the fact is, we talked about batteries have to be exchanged. What are you going to do with these things, with these batteries? They're not, like water, like what the fuel cell does.
Are you going to resolve the weight and volume issues in order to have more powerful vehicles in the future? That's a very interesting idea. I think in some way, the rocket is similar to the fuel cell energy. They're also using hydrogens combining with oxygens because of that very same advantages, which is volume versus weight ratio. So I think for the customer, especially for bigger vehicles such as trains or planes, in the future, there is a very good potential of using fuel cells.
The only byproduct of fuel cell engine is the water, but at the beginning I was confused why not all the car makers take this technology, and I found this about the limit of the technology and about how people make a profit. And as we talked last week about how Tesla gain the money, and I did quick research about that, and I was surprised that they're making profits by sell their carbon credit to other factories. And yeah,
the costs are just very high still, yeah, for producing an electric vehicle. It's definitely still an interesting market to see what will happen in the future, if they're going to stick with this or if they're going to start doing, maybe switch technology and go to fuel cell.
The US right now is undergoing major challenges in infrastructure, like crumbling bridges and roads, schools, buildings, etc. And so I think that this could be not necessarily a bad thing, but an opportunity to go ahead and update things that we've been needing to update in the first place. There are 1.1 million Americans that would need to start transitioning to new jobs if traditional gasoline was replaced with fuel cell technology. And I suggest that the US workforce can transition some to fuel cell technology, but also could get job training on infrastructure. The US Department of Energy predicts that 675,000 people will be employed in fuel cell technology over the next 15 years. But for electric vehicles, they think that's only going to grow by about 230,000 jobs. And so I thought it was interesting that maybe either the Department of Energy is predicting a shift to a different technology, or predicting that electric vehicles as an industry isn't going to grow enough to necessitate enlarging the workforce.
This is interesting, really it seems that you know, that a lot of different paths into the future are still there. The practicality of not having enough of a network available already makes it difficult to have a fuel cell car, because if you cannot get hydrogen anywhere and you're basically stranded, then you don't have a car, but you have something that looks like it. You know, like a house on wheels, but very small one.
Most of the manufacturers today are working on to improve better combustion engines or fuel cell energies than to shifting completely to electric vehicle. So some of the car designers are considering very, very dramatic. They're challenging the idea of what car means to their life. So maybe in the future, we will see like very different shape that doesn't have 4 seats and the trunk car driving in the roads.
The safety issues for fuel cell cars, like hydrogen, highly combustible, can explode very easily. I think the future is bright when you kind of look at these different technologies, and at the same time, we should also acknowledge that electric vehicles are not quite possibly as clean as one sometimes seems to believe, or kind of things, and the politicians maybe kind of who push this.
It still come back to like how much profit the company is making. It's not about how good, how visionary you are. It's just about like whether customers will buy them.